Hello, my name is Jen, and in this video I'll explain the final two phases of the corrective exercise continuum. This includes activation and integration. Activation, phase 3, refers to the stimulation of underactive myofascial tissue. This seeks to address the underactive or weak muscles. After this phase, the client is to progress to the final phase, which involves integration techniques. This is important as it re-educates the human movement system back into a functional movement pattern. This involves multi-joint actions, muscle synergies, and neuromuscular control in order to replicate everyday movement once again, this time with proper mechanics. A few contraindications to note for both activation and integration techniques includes being cautious of acute injury or muscle strains, rheumatoid arthritis of the affected joint, and if there is any pain during the movement. As well, the trainer should be very wary of hypertension, coronary heart disease, poor core strength, and compromised force exertion patterns or pain to the joint areas involved. To begin, during the activation portion, the client must begin with isolated strengthening. These exercises are intended to increase intermuscular coordination. It is important to focus on increased activation of the muscles throughout the full range of motion. Note that isolated strengthening can occur immediately after inhibitory and lengthening techniques. These exercises can be performed with manual resistance, cables, tubing, dumbbells, and machines. Isolated training can be completed 3 to 5 days a week with 1 to 2 sets, aiming for 10 to 15 repetitions and holding for 2 seconds at end range, followed by 4 seconds through the eccentric phase. For isolated strengthening for the shoulder complex, begin by standing in line with, in this case, a resistance band held at tension. Think about tucking in the elbow, placing the elbow at a 90 degree from that of the upper arm and the forearm. Proceed to pull the arm away while maintaining elbow positioning as if to open a door. Ensure that the elbow does not move and that tension is felt within the rotator cuff or the shoulder complex. Look that the client as well does not compensate by rotating the hips or lifting the ribs, therefore using the back. A second activation technique that can be used is positional isometrics. This involves no active motion but produces isometric contractions at the end range of motion. Positional isometrics can be used as needed with one set of up to 4 repetitions. There should be a 4-second isometric hold held at 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100% of maximal contraction. Note there should be 2 seconds rest in between each contraction. Shown here, we can see positional isometric exercise for the rhomboids, a stabilizer in the shoulder complex. Have the client lying prone or face down with the arm extended out to the side, in which they can let the forearm hang over, producing a 90 degree at the elbow. As the trainer, place light pressure on the opposite shoulder while placing hand position on the elbow being worked. Have the client push their elbow into your hand while contracting the rhomboids. The last progression and phase of the corrective exercise continuum includes integrated dynamic movement. This is the involvement of dynamic, total body exercises. Collectively, these exercises integrate dynamic movement and enhance functional capacity. Dynamic movement should be slow and controlled with little load and in an ideal postural position. Progressions include changing movements from the sagittal plane to the frontal plane and transverse, as well as incorporating upper body and lower body movement in relation to the area in which you are working. Integrated dynamic movement training can occur 3 to 5 days per week with 1 to 3 sets and 10 to 15 repetitions. The duration of exercises should be slow and controlled. Here we see a lunge to an overhead press. Given that we are targeting the shoulder complex, the lower extremity movement is not necessary, however is essential in producing dynamic full body movement. Start by standing feet shoulder width apart with dumbbells held at shoulder level position. Proceed to lunge forward while maintaining load in position. After completing this portion, extend back up to a starting position by squeezing the glutes and pressing off the front leg, while extending the upper arms upward. Note the forearm position that changes, beginning with palms facing forward to extending to face outward at the end of the movement. Both activation and integration techniques are essential to re-educate underactive myofascial tissue. These techniques will help with both training and rehabilitation.